You've called, you've emailed, and they've helped you succeed with your epoxy project? Meet Stone Coat's two newest epoxy pro reps, Taya and Quinn. Now they are on site with me doing a brand new kitchen over old laminate. We're training these pro reps from top to bottom with all our finishes. You guys have been with me all week. We're gonna learn how to properly prep this laminate and turn it into beautiful gray marble. Stay tuned and enjoy the video. If you haven't heard, our pro program is blowing up. You're gonna get the best price on your epoxy projects with a tiered discount program. Book a call right now with Rob or one of our pro reps. We'll leave a link in the description below. So the first main and most important thing is we do not get any sticky epoxy on any finished surface in this customer's home. So we use Ramboard. That's my favorite material. It's a little spendy, but the cool thing about it, except for the very front rows where a lot of the epoxy is going to pour off, you can roll that back up and use it on your next job because you're just going to have little footprints. And then we're going to give ourselves an exit. So if we walk through epoxy, we don't step off into the wood and go, uh-oh. Always give yourself a pathway to the bathroom. Those are pro tips for on-site success. You use blue tape on the cabinet because you don't want to peel any of the finish off. Right under the lip as high as we can. Then we put the plastic and then we're taping it right up to the top using an orange high sticky tape. We got a couple ways to get that backsplash off. The oscillating tool, it's gonna take forever. The second way, I would get a Sawzall with a longer blade. The best and most efficient way is a jam saw. And the jam saw is a professional tool that's made to like cut the bottom of trim and things like that. So after that's removed, we fill that gap and then all-purpose filler goes on top. With the Bondo, you fill it high, sand it smooth, you're out of here. You know, it's one and done. And then while that's drying, that's when we come in, we clean these counters. We use TSP, which is trisodium phosphate. We'll wipe them dry and then you have to rinse that. Very important step. The other important thing is that the water's out of there before you start bringing in coats of paint and things. So give it some time to dry. We'll sand it. We'll get all-purpose filler on any of these seams so those don't show up. And we'll be off to the races ready to apply the bonding primer. The bonding primer is different than the undercoat. The bonding primer is so much thinner. It's two very thin coats. And how I know, it's usually a rule of thumb, it's about a 2-hour dry time. If you could dig your nails into that bonding primer and nothing scratches off and it's no longer cool feeling, you're ready for the next step, which is our 2 coats of epoxy undercoat in either white or black, or make yourself a gray by mixing them together. The most important step with our epoxy undercoat is give it that 4-hour dry time. That makes sure all the moisture is out of the product. We can safely cover it with Stone Coat epoxy. Now it's a seamless countertop finish form. Follow best practices that we teach in these videos that you learn from our reps, and your project will be done with great success. All right, guys, the hard work is done. It's time to have some fun. We are prepped out. We've got our tape dam. We're gonna hold this on nice and tight until the epoxy gets nice and thick, probably 2 hours to 3 hours after we mix. Then we'll come in here, we'll pull our tape dam, and then the exotic pour will flow nice and uniformly over these edges, giving this countertop the appearance like it was cut out of a slab of granite. We added a little countertop here, so the back of the oven is gonna look real pretty trimming on an actual countertop. That's going to be a nice upgrade. We built our backsplash. I mixed up the colors my customers wanted, and I applied it over a little, 12-inch rounds. You could pick those up at the Home Depot for like 12 bucks. And now I'm going to give that to my customer at the end. They could have many uses for that. So it's a little present. Last thing I want to do is start scraping epoxy off their kitchen because they said, I want red, not white. That'd be a bad day. I flew from Texas with minimal tools, and I was able to do this in one hard day's work. We're here ready to pour. And then tomorrow I'll be back for the ultimate top coat. The customer will be able to use this project the very next day. So what's mixing time? So I'm gonna mix 2 gallons at a time. If you're new at this, I'd recommend, cutting that in half. Mix 1 gallon at a time. And what I did here is I set up all my colors. So I've got my big bucket to mix the epoxy clear. And then I'm gonna divide that into separate mixing buckets based on the finish the customer approves. So I know it's a majority of white dye. Full white dye. So this is going to be my biggest bucket. I'm going to go about 112 ounces of that, followed by 64 ounces of skim white. We got your whole milk, and now we got skim milk. That's more translucent. It's going to be, 25% white, 100% white, followed by 64 ounces of white mica. And then our accent is black dye. So I got a little mark. And so I know I don't fill this all the way with black because I'm going to use about this much in this entire project. I break down exactly how many ounces I'm mixing up For every color, I'll leave the ounces and I'll also leave the percentage. So you can copy this finish and scale it as big or as small as you wish. All right, we're mixing up Art Coat epoxy. Why am I using Art Coat? It's the most UV resistant epoxy in the entire industry. You also have an extended amount of working time. Rule of thumb is about 55 to 65 minutes, but you definitely can get that to self-level, get rid of bubbles, all the way up through 90 minutes. So I'll mix for 2 minutes in my big bucket. Midway through mixing, scraping the sides of that bucket, that gets any undermixed epoxy clinging to the side of that bucket incorporated into the mix, and you're gonna be good to go. Because then we're gonna take that mixed epoxy, divide it up into our mixing cups, and add in the colors. I've got James and Tom, they're our contractors here in Southern Oregon. They came out to Texas and took a hands-on training course with us. And when I knew I was headed back here for a few projects, I hollered at them, they let us use some tools, and they're lending me their skills. So check out the description below, Custom Epoxy and Coatings here in Grants Pass, Oregon. I've got our mix table here. We're completely covered with ram board. I've got our paper towels pre-wetted down. So when we're done mixing, wipe off your sticks, wipe up the areas if I have any drips. You can even wipe up the deck because we're gonna be walking back and forth for the next couple hours and we do not wanna track it. After mixing my white dye bucket, I'll evenly spread a thin coat on the surface so that our exotic pour can slide freely all the way to the edges. This is perfect skim milk, so see the difference? See the wood show through? Let me show you solid white, whole milk. No wood showing through. You can see all the volume and then look how much black I have. The black goes so far, folks. Do yourself a favor, make a small piece. You will see how far it really goes. I'm mixing up 6 to 8 ounces per square foot because I'm gonna do a dirty pour instead of melding the colors by hand. Just randomly pour your colors into one bucket and let gravity do the mixing and melding. Don't stir them and don't overthink it. Looking good. Customer gave us the thumbs up. We're now going to proceed forward with mixing up more clear epoxy. So make sure you have enough buckets when doing a dirty pour on site because I poured all those colors back in my original mixing bucket. You need one to remain crystal clear. So from now on, I'm mixing my clear in here, tinting the colors, and then going back into that first bucket to pour out the dirty pour. After a few minutes, give it a few quick passes with the torch, back and forth, then side to side, like you're mowing the lawn. This pops the micro bubbles as they rise to the surface, ensuring a smooth finish. See how the colors are flowing and separating naturally? No fancy tricks, no art degree required. Just watch the epoxy imitate stone all on its own. You watch your feet, you're good, but if there's any puddles, don't step in that.
This is a cool kitchen too.
Because of that pop out, man, you're gonna get taxed.
Yeah. On the granite? Yeah.
Big time. You're gonna lose a lot of slab right there. Your normal standards here. Now this section, they got to add all this. So all this back here is waste usually. Yeah. Often in a kitchen like this, they have to add a whole nother slab. I was in the granite industry and we would lose people who the price point was too high or they couldn't find the color they loved. Yeah. Or when they did find the color they loved, it was too much. Each one of these has been so close because of marking those buckets the way we do. I'm not worried whatsoever about one of them looking way out of the ordinary. Okay, now I gotta go torch. I'm so happy I have you all here. You guys have been a huge help.
Yeah, just keeping the flow, keeping the piles from accumulating. Heck yeah. There's a shot right here where that pearl rolls up and this is on top of it and this, you can see the depth of it. Looks so cool.
Oh yeah, right there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You're gonna pull the tape down when the epoxy gets thick enough, a little bit like honey. We're talking about 1.5 to 2 hours after mixing, depending on your temperature and humidity. Down in the Texas heat, I'm pulling tape just after an hour. Ease the tape all the way down in one smooth motion. And be sure to come back a few times every half hour and rub the bottom of the edge to make sure that epoxy covers all the way underneath. So when sanding drips on site, James, I'm always going number one on slow. You catch the epoxy at the right time, where we're probably 22 hours since we mixed, right? So it's not all the way cured up. Still got a little fingernail. If we wanted to push on it, we could leave a fingerprint. That's gonna come out, but great time to sand because it doesn't go airborne. So I'll turn this on low, and then I glide. As I'm holding the sander, I keep one finger on the cabinet, and then I go back and forth rather than in and out, and then that way I don't ding any of the cabinetry. Especially on white, these cords rubbing can leave a black mar, so keep your eyes on that on your edges. And then I always get to a Scotch Brite or really high grit on low for the rolled edge. This is your thinnest part of the whole project. Somebody can go sand the backsplash out there with 220. I already got the drips off, so just the face. Don't really even worry about the edge, just the face with 220. We're back, we're prepped out. The countertops have been sanded, we've been de-prepped. We're ready for the ultimate top coat. So we're going matte. A very important pro tip whenever using matte is you gotta give it a good shake before mixing part A and B together. And there are instructions included with every ultimate top coat that tells you exactly how much water to mix in so you have a nice consistent finish. And then it's a wet roll, dry roll process. So my mentality as I load up my roller, a couple passes to knock off the loose stuff. I go right up the middle, and then I feather to the right a couple passes, and then I feather right back through that puddle and go just the same amount of distance back to the left. And if I see pretty big ridges, as I'm feathering back through that material, I'm trying to knock those down and kind of pick that material up and feather it down. So when I come to dry roll, it's just really, really light pressure.
Okay.
I'll load her up, roll it off, and I scoot over, and then it's gonna be like in, and then feather it to the left. So the whites are tricky. You see, as you can see, you can't really tell.
Yeah.
And then feather it to the right, and then just keep doing that. Don't worry about the edge too, because we'll hit that after we've hit the top. The second my dry roller starts making too much noise, gets sticky, you'll hear it.
Yeah, it gets tacky.
You want to discard that, grab a fresh one, and then don't go over an area you just dry roll. This happened from doing our UTC and setting it right flat on the ram boards. Not the biggest deal, we only have a few of these spots, but I just scrape it off. There's just a little ultimate top coat that got down there. I'll take a piece of ram board and lightly rub it on my cured ultimate top coat. I let it cure a day or so, and then every so often, like this was not perfect conditions. Homeowners were in here. I had the backsplash on the ground, but the ram board will knock down any little baby high point without changing the appearance of the ultimate top coat whatsoever. Think of it as 10,000 grit. Put a little piece down, very light pressure. It's just a little, you can go forward and back. You can do it however you want. But this knocks down any little nib or nub that may have gotten into the ultimate top coat while curing. Beautiful. And I think what my trick there was, just a little bit extra water. That's gonna extend the working time and get you a nice smooth top coat. Stunning finish, very durable. That's why it's ultimate. Another project in the books. A big thanks to our pro reps, Taya and Quinn. They did a fantastic job. And to our local contractors, James and Tom, you guys did great. And to our homeowners, thanks for trusting us with your kitchen. If you could update one surface in your home, let us know what it would be. Countertops, floors, showers, or something else. Comment below and we'll catch you on the next project. You got this.